This painting is going to
River
emphasize
Barge,
the geometric shapes that
is
are
a-
in the
a photograph
composition.
of
And the first thing I'd like you to do is to
tugboat or
draw
whatever
the
it is,
photograph in
pushing the
rectangles
barge.
and squares.
And
In
even
order
though,
for us to
there's
a figure in there, and there's a boat, a tugboat, that type of thing. Even the trees should be at an angular. We're trying to distort the shapes, and then once that is completed, and you have arranged the shapes and sizes so you can see the figure next to the boat and also the barge, and you can erase and adjust it because these are only geometric shapes. These are allotting space for these objects. Then once they are in place, then at that particular time you want to go back over the edges and see if you can get a little bit more contour to the edges, but not too much because we don't want it to be really realistic. These are stylized shapes, but we don't want it to be just geometric either. So it's kind of an in-between type of thing, like I'm working on this hat right here and thinking, okay, that's about where it should go, and also the legs. There's some contour to the legs, and I want to make sure I put that in. And then erasing a few lines that I think need to be adjusted, and that type of thing. It's I've got the placement of the shapes properly, so they're the right size. And then that once you get that done, then you overlay it with a little bit more detailed contour drawing. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going back over my edges to see what they look like and compared to the photograph. And I made them really dark because I wanted it to show in the video. Now I noticed that I needed a little bit more space, so I'm going to move my format over a little bit with this tape, and so then I'll be able to extend the painting without redoing the drawing, rather, without redoing it, the whole thing. Okay, there we go. Now the next thing is that I've got a value chart. Now I notice more than 6 values, and I'm looking for the value that would match the landscape down there, and I find out it's next to black. That really surprised me, and so I'm going to put that in. And now you've got to put it in so it's a little darker than you think, because it does dry 20% lighter. And so I'll block that in, and I'm using a 1/2 inch Robert Simmons brush, white sable. Holds a nice edge. And around here now I want to make sure that is not just a halo around that part, that top part of that boat. Okay, so I'm going to continue adding the tree right away, so it's all one shape. And then we're going to dry it at that particular point, and then we're going to check the value, and I thought the value was just a little too dark. As you can see, it's way too dark. It's almost black. And so I'm going to just take water, and I'm going to put that down on that, and then I'm going to take a Kleenex and lift some of the value off, and now I'm right on. This is exactly where it should be. And so this is how you can lighten your values, to double check to see if it matches the value that you're after. And you check the photograph to double sure. Now there are light values in that, in that landscape, but we don't worry about that. We're simplifying things. Now this is going to be the barge. I think that's what you call a barge. Kind of around very carefully around the hat of the person with that particular value. I checked that value, and it's very close to the value that's on top of it, just a little bit lighter. And I'm using that flat brush because I want angular edges, and so I'm just kind of blocking it in. And as you do this, you can squint at the photograph to see exactly where this particular value would go. And so I'm going to go around the figure and down to the bottom. And then I think what I'll do is I'll paint right through the figure because that's the shadow side of this. And so I'm leaving the lights white on the highlight side. And paint it through the tugboat that's on the side right there. And then I noticed that I didn't want a sky to be too white, so I'm using a light value to take that down. So the white is going to be in the tugboat, nowhere else. Now after I got that done, and I used the same value in the sky as I used in the foreground. And now I'm going to block in some of the shadow shapes of the tugboat. I don't know if that's a tugboat. I think that's I don't even know what that is really. But you see now that got just a little too dark, so I'll lift that off and it goes around there. You don't have to be real detailed. You don't want to actually be real detailed, but you want to keep that as white as possible in that particular place. And now I have to take this big shape and find some darker shapes inside it so that we have a sort of we're doing a little bit of form here, but more rectangular than anything. And you can see I left some of that light. And if you squint at your picture that you'll have, you'll be able to see that. And then the tree to the right now has got to be really dark. This is where it really becomes black. And even when you paint that as dark as I am painting it, I leave some of the lighter dark value come through. Now I'm trying to make up my mind exactly, is this tree in front of this boat or is it behind it? And I've decided that it has to be in front of it because of where it ends down below. Now add some more value that is below the boat itself. And blocking it in. Now you notice now that value that I put in the shirt of the person now is light because I have a darker value next to it. And so that works out really great. And I also put little dashes of lines to indicate the reflection that's down below. And now I'm going to put a little bit of detail in the boat, just where the windows are and so forth. Don't try to be too detailed on it. Squint, see what pops up, and then put that in those values that you see it. A little bit darker there, right on top of the windows. A little reflection of those windows in the water. And there's a little railing that's on top of this boat, so I'll give a few little dashes to show negative space of those railings. And now I'm going to put in another value that's in the figure. This is the darkest value that's in the slacks. And also, I want you to be careful that you don't try to do too much there. There are no soft edges in this painting. But they're all hard edge. Could use some soft edges, but I decided that I would just try to stick to like a puzzle type of painting, where if you wanted to, you could cut every one of these shapes out and make it into a puzzle. There's a little bit of dry brush on top to indicate the little texture on that barge. And if you notice the whiteness of the water and the sky itself, works out really nice. And then I'm going to put in some branches, and then looking carefully, I will put a little bit of darkness there and right in there. And then you didn't see this, but I went ahead and glazed over the white of the boat that's reflected in the water, so that the whiteness is on the boat itself. And then I'm getting some little detail that I'm putting in with a smaller rigger of a brush. So I'm adding now some darker accents around the figure itself, and also straightening out a little bit of negative space from the boat. And then the last thing you want to do is put in the white highlights. If you've missed them and you painted them out, and I'm using just white gouache paint with a small brush.
Okay,
and
now I would start to use some white paint just to give a little bit of highlight on the figure and also on the boat, on the water where I missed it,
bit up
on the boat, and then
don't
there's a little
overdo
railing
this.
that goes across.
It's fun to do this, and it looks great.
Tugboat.
And then all of a sudden you got spots all over. So just be careful and do a little bit, and then take a look at it and
just a
see
little
if
bit
you,
up there.
If you like it up to that point.
You want to go. You don't want to do too much of this. You can overdo it.
Well, thank you
good.
for watching. This is
And,
the completed piece.
That would
And
be
now
what
we'll
the
go on
picture
to
looks
the
like.
watercolor
And
painting
now we're
of
going
this
on to the painting.
value.